Anybody else have a Fred story? All right, Mr. Cotcamp.
I'm Roland Cotcamp, the current president of the club here. And on behalf of our entire membership, Laura, our deepest sympathies to you and your family, Johnny, David, and Terry. And I think this turnout is a real testament to Fred and what he meant to everybody. I first met Fred about 10 years ago when my wife Jan and I moved here. And we're next door neighbors. So we obviously had a lot of conversations. And what I'm hearing is what I experienced with Fred. Fred could discuss on any topic. And I affectionately referred to him as the Squire. That was my name for him because I always thought Fred should be a lawyer. He could talk and argue with you about any topic. And I knew I was in for an experience when we first met Laura and Fred. We went out to dinner a few times, and Fred had that dry sense of humor, and we started talking about a lot of topics. So I knew I was in for a real experience. But we used to come up to the club for some of our social events, and I don't know if many of you knew that Fred was a real musician. I think trombone, wasn't that what he was?
Yeah.
So he loved his music. So the one song that we always made sure that we had going on when Fred was here was, "I Ain't Got Nobody." And Fred, I can picture him sitting right over here now going, "I ain't got nobody." And you could hear him through this whole place. So he really, right in that truth, he loved it. But he's going to be missed. I'm going to miss my conversations with him, but he was a wonderful man. And again, our condolences. Thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
Okay, did I have anybody else? Oh, Kim? Kim Bear? No, it's okay. That's what this is about.
Funny. I met John through my husband Jim, Ultimate Players, and then Johnny's I'm a massage therapist. We give out gift certificates to Laura and Fred and Stuart. And the funny thing is, Laura and I would maybe have a glass of wine after the massage, listen to 90s music. Fred had to listen to Rush Limbaugh during the massage. So I just thought that was kind of funny and explains his personality. I miss him dearly.
Okay, does anybody else have a Fred story? Oh, more from Kathy Chess? Blech.
I want to tell Joyce in the back that Fred really enjoyed working at the VA clinic with you and the Impaired Vision Center. That meant a lot to him, and it definitely informed him.
Okay, and next, Fred's middle child, David, would like to speak about his father.
My last moment with my dad was actually right here. It was for John's rehearsal reception. And he was sitting in one of the chairs, and I came up behind him, and I looked down, and I saw that big, thick head of silver hair, and I said, "Dad, you know I never thanked you for this, but thanks for the hair." And he said, "Well, that's my mom's hair." I said, "No, you gave it to me." So if all my friends go bald, I think but it certainly goes deeper than DNA. I have so many happy memories of my childhood, of Dad wrapping his ring against the steering wheel, keeping time with the music, stopping at the stoplights with his finger on the brake, doing the rhythm of the music. When we hit a bump in the road, he'd speed up so we'd get like a roller coaster effect. He just loved to entertain us and make us happy. And he did that so well. And when I was in high school, and I was not a typical high school kid. I dressed really strangely and didn't really have the same interests as other kids. And I must say, my dad always loved me and was so sweet. I never felt anything but just unconditional love. So I really do miss him. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, and I am Fred's youngest. I kind of wrote 3 speeches, and I'm going to try to combine them. I hope they're not too long. But I want to start off with, I'm a history teacher, so my father's story in many ways I talk about in the classroom, things that happened in his life. My dad was born in 1927, a big year for Babe Ruth, Charles Lindbergh, and the first talkie came out. He was a small child during the Depression, and his father took a job with the WPA, which was a part of the New Deal. During the early years of World War II, his family partook in scrap metal drives, victory gardens, and rationing. He graduated in high school in early '45, enlisted in the Navy, but saw little action. I tell a story to my kids. He was a sonar man, and they saw a blip came up, and so they dropped depth charges, and then my dad said then a bunch of dead fish came up. He said that was about the most action we saw, so they blew up a lot of fish. They were probably Japanese fish, though, so it was okay. All right? He was also at Okinawa on VJ Day. He was the first to go to college in his family, thanks to the GI Bill. Dad wanted to be a part of the growing U.S., and he saw civil engineering. He wanted to be a part of the U.S. as it grew and got bigger, and he saw that as the future. And he moved to the big city, Chicago, from Colorado, and met the woman of his dreams, my mom. And soon Mom and Dad contributed to the baby boom. During the 60s and early 70s, Dad was a part of the silent majority. I'm pretty sure, he never said it, but I'm pretty sure that didn't like the craziness of the 60s. I also want to share some memories of my father that are not in history books that always be a part of me. I remember being a little boy in Muncie, and my dad was playing all-time quarterback and just handed me the football, saying, "Go, keep going," and knock kids down. He didn't care. And I scored, and he was very excited. I was probably 6. When we lived in Indianapolis, my dad, I lived in a neighborhood there really weren't any kids. So really my dad was my best friend. He'd come home from work, and he'd get on his clothes, and we'd go out in the backyard and throw the football, baseball. He'd have me run all the way across the yard, around the tree, and time me and try to get me to run faster. I remember being in my bedroom crying for hours as he got the multiplication table cards out and just kept doing them. Dad, Will. And I was just screaming. But I learned them, so he did the right thing. Anybody that lived with us in Alabama, anybody that lived in our neighborhood, knew my dad's whistle. Because at dinner time, there was a really loud whistle that went throughout the entire neighborhood, and that meant, oh, time for John to go home for dinner. Teen and college years, that's sort of the time that you break away from your father and do your own thing, and I certainly did that with my dad and kind of found myself. In the last 10 years, we really got close. When you're really young, my dad kind of looked after me, and it seems like the last 10 years I kind of always looked out for him. We took a lot of trips together. We went to Montana to see some of his friends. Me and David went with Dad to New Orleans, a place he'd never been, and we knew with his love for jazz that would be fun. We took a road trip up to my cousin Jeff's wedding, and then back through Memphis and Vicksburg, Tennessee, and a couple years ago we went up to Andersonville, which, how many people do you know would get it? Hey Dad, do you want to go to a Civil War battlefield where prison grounds? Yeah, let's go. That was Dad. We loved doing that kind of stuff, and I always kind of looked after my dad. And in many ways, my dad, I would say, was my hero. There are many book heroes you read about in books, on TV or hear stories about, and I was fortunate to spend 42 years of my life with my hero, who was my father. I can say he was my hero, and I believe there are many people here who recognize that quality that makes someone your hero. My father always put his family first. He always put us first and managed to make that what made him happy. My father was the first in his family to go to college and made sure all of his children did the same. And now he has 2 grandchildren almost there also. You guys are going to finish, right?
We'll see.
My father always took his time and made it our time. I always got excited when he came home from work, and because I knew he wanted to do something with me. My father taught me about honesty and that it was something to value in others. My father always modeled a good sense of humor and made life fun. My father always pushed me in one direction, knowing I would return from another direction stronger. There was never a single instance that my father